Hi, my name's Dee and welcome to Untitled Tarot. Now, this is going to be your full moon gods at play reading for the sign that is down in the title. It's a bulk introduction as ever. There will be a timestamp down below, but stick with it this time, at least the first time, because there's some good information I've pulled together, I believe. I've had some real fun researching this and working everything out. So, timestamp because, or first time because, it's a good idea to watch at least 3 of these. So your sun sign, your moon sign and your rising sign. My personal favourite would be your rising sign. You know, if you don't get to watch any of the others, watch your rising sign. There's a link down below for a birth chart if you don't know what that is. It takes you to AstroSeek. If you do know a little bit about astrology, you can choose what house system you want and all that sort of thing. So, being a general reading, of course, it's not aimed at any one person specifically. So it's a sort of, it either is for you or it isn't. It's not really a reading where you can ask a question beforehand, although you could if you want to. I don't know how effective that would be. It's a look at the energies that are interplaying. It's the gods at play readings, by their very nature, are dramatic, wonderfully dramatic. So take it all with a pinch of salt. Remember, it's the shape of the images rather than the literal words that are important here. So let's get on to this new moon. So 9 degrees Aries. This is the harvest moon, which is the first full moon after fall equinox. Now, the astrologer Kelly Rosano is saying it's a great reset. It's a great time to make a fresh start, to reinvent yourself, to keep moving if you have a strategy. And if you don't have the strategy, work on the strategy. You know, don't just move without a strategy. But if you can keep moving, do keep moving. Now, with it being 9 degrees Aries, I'm going to be referring to all my written notes and some notes on the computer here. This point has a history this year. So, back on the 11th of July this year, Chiron stationed retrograde at this point to conjunct 3 days later on the 14th with Mars. So this point has been activated already with that warrior fire energy of Mars, but tamed a little. Tamed is probably the wrong word, but in the act of receiving instruction. Now, Chiron, a lot of people remember that he's the wounded healer, that he has the wound that will not heal. But I'm not being led to that woundedness with this point. What I'm being led to is the fact that Chiron was a teacher of heroes. Chiron trained Hercules, among other characters, and I've suddenly forgot all of the other characters. It's just fallen out the back of my brain. But Chiron was a teacher. And going back to the astrology, because I'll get back to the symbolism of Chiron in a moment. So Mars conjuncted with Chiron on the 14th. Now, Mars had just conjuncted 3 days before? No, as Chiron stationed retrograde on the 11th here at 9 degrees, the moon conjuncted Mars. Now, the moon had been a busy boy. From the 5th of July, he had been conjuncting with Jupiter and Pluto, then on the 6th, Saturn, and he delivered all of that information to Mars on the 6th via the means of a sextile, you know, which is it's a modern aspect. It's like a little vaguely positive download, I would suppose. Then the moon conjuncted with Neptune on the 10th and took all that ocean energy straight to Mars on the 11th, which Mars then took, you know, obviously quite possibly reeling and, you know, having that comic moment of and then it conjuncted with Chiron. So Chiron was there to help Mars make sense of everything that the moon had just gone at him. And now the moon has returned. I mean, obviously it returns every month, but now the moon has really returned in the terms of this harvest moon, full moon. So I'm really seeing that there has been a period where we have been able to make sense maybe of wounds, or make sense of our path forward, and things that you started around the middle of July, so 11th, 14th, all that sort of area onwards, can be coming to a culmination of sorts with this full moon. Now, that's just a culmination, not the culmination. So it's not like a final conclusion. It's you're going to be reaching towards a high point, a potentially healing high point, but as a result of everything that you have learned and things that you set into motion back in July. Now, the symbols back this up somewhat. Let me get through to this. Here we go. Now, the Chandra symbol is the roots of a tree entwined around the statue of a nude woman. So the explanation of this sounds a bit weird, but just think about the weird time we have gone through with 2020, with all the lockdown restrictions, with the new restrictions that we've had to introduce for ourselves to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe, the financial restrictions that have no doubt come in at the same time. And these restrictions are definitely being highlighted now by the current Mars square Saturn, or Mars Saturn square is what I was going to say, which goes to show again that Mars trying to demonstrate everything he'd learned under the tutelage of Chiron. It's we have got to find a way forward, and Saturn's going, if you find a way forward, you do it sensibly, within the limits. You do it within a defined pathway. You do it with strategy. Another thing Kelly Rosano said in her video was that squares are like a step up. You can use them, and I think Rick Levine has talked about how you can resolve issues in a square creatively, using creativity, but that square creates tension in the first place, so it's highlighting issues that are already there. So going back to this roots of a tree entwined around the statue, so it says bondage and freedom sometimes go hand in hand. The bondage is being true to pattern, predictable, here's Saturn, caught in habits and tendencies perpetually left to grow like weeds. The freedom is that as you meet yourself starkly in the midst of these old, tired patterns of behaviour, you come into touch with a quickening flame of self-recreation, stimulated and forced by being at the mercy of the relentless powers. Now, if that doesn't sum up what is also going on in the astrology around this full moon with that Mars-Saturn square, I don't know what does. You cannot... the heavens are most definitely giving us a huge message here. Anyway, I'll continue with this. The impulse to make yourself over is fervently strong, courageous, ready and willing. The old stuff dies hard. You are therefore engaged in a pitched battle of a protracted kind between retrogressive and progressive ideals, impulses and desires. Both sides are so impassioned and sharply intent that this could become a knockdown, drag-out battle of wills. Now, if that doesn't reflect the politics as well as our own internal struggle at the moment, I don't know what does. Where was I? The atavistic backward-leaning will feel immune to change. The visionary forward-thrusting will feel moved by evolutionary forces to never give up. Eventually, the future prevails over the past, but not before scars and multiple traumas mark the spot of fighting for your life against an implacable inward enemy who knows it will lose and fights all the harder accordingly. I hadn't read that right through to the end. That doesn't bode well for the election, does it? So, moving on. Another thing is the Omega symbol. Again, I'm reading Aries 10 because this full moon is at 9 degrees and 8 minutes of Aries, therefore it's in the 10th degree. So in many different places, a man keeps seeing the same number. It's talking about interacting and being inspired. Now there will have been over this period, I mean, there is over any period, but over this period especially, certainly under the tutelage of Chiron, there will have been certain things which will have appeared again and again and again. And with all the circumstances that we've had recently, we're pretty much forced to look at it. Just as Saturn is now stationing direct, turning to face Mars as it goes in that square to it, and Saturn is like this, look here, this, those things that you cannot resist, those things that you cannot ignore. And when I say you can't resist, I don't mean like chocolates, I mean like a wall. You cannot resist a wall if you run into it, you know. This so it's definitely highlighting those limitations that we're going to face, and how we are going to be able to change ourselves to overcome those limitations. Now, presiding over this degree is the angel Eladia, who the phrase I have here is looks can kill, protection from the evil eye and divine grace. But so I investigated Eladia a little further, and as a guardian angel, where she is, I think, is it the first half of the second decan of second half of the second decan of Taurus, but she also presides over 9 degrees Aries, 21 degrees Gemini, and my database isn't built up any further than that. There will be another 3 points that she presides over. Now, Eladia symbolises tolerance and clarity of mind, giving you inspiration to succeed in your endeavours, as well as helping in restoring your morale. He also brings you healing and forgiveness for your faults. What is really interesting is that of the charisms he rules over, it's interpretation. It's how to interact and how to perceive the world around you. Now, you can ask Eladia to bring you divine grace so that your faults may be forgiven, but that's also a process of, to do that, you need to have recognised your faults in the first place, and then to have them forgiven, you also have to make sure that you are not making the same faults again and again and again and again. So there's that whole rebirth element going on once more. So here I've got Guardian Angel Eladia provides tolerance, mental clarity, forgiveness, healing of illnesses, recognition of your mistakes. So Eladia will help you recognize where the mistakes, and that's a good thing, because if you think this Mars square Saturn, it's Mars retrograde, we are reviewing what we have already set into motion, and then as Mars goes direct again, we get to do it again, but properly. Eladia offers a sense of freedom from your past and helps instill a sense of morality. I'll just leave that one there because that's too much of a hot topic there. But within the Goetia, the by day, let me see. This degree is ruled by Baal by day and Phoenix by night. Now, Phoenix is depicted as a phoenix. So again, we've got that symbol of rebirth, and he's a great Marquis of Hell, has 20 legions of demons under his command, but he teaches all wonderful sciences and is an excellent poet and tends to be very obedient to those who summon him. Now, he does hope to return to heaven after 1200 years, but it is noted that he is deceived in this hope, and it's definitely been 1200 years since Solomon helped conjure him to help build his temple. So if the full moon is happening in the night where you are, there is that added oomph of rebirth from that phoenix energy. Now, Baal or Baal is more of a shapeshifter and warrior god. He's also incredibly, well, kingly. Basically, he's one of the 9 kings of Goetia, and he presides over solstices, fire festivals, gives aid in astral projection, shapeshifting within dreams, and is also helps with the reconciliation of friends, which might be a really useful tool. And that could be a step on your using that square to climb up, because Tempers afraid this year, understandably. If there's anyone that you need to make up with, and the full moon is in the day where you are. I mean, I remember last week there was some astrological conjunction or other, well, aspect or other, that was also helping with this whole reconciliation idea. So that energy is obviously still with us by Baal being empowered by the full moon. Now, that's probably technically not the right way to say it, but you know, Baal's mastery of this degree empowering the full moon, put it that way. You know, so all in all, this promises to be a really good full moon if you take advantage of it. So yeah, do your full moon ceremony, but also be in touch with people. Be in touch with all the voices inside your head, and be in touch with some of the voices outside of your head, like your friends, your family, anybody that you maybe need to smooth things over with, and anybody that will help you move forward in things that you have already set into motion, and hopefully set them into motion using your strategy that is so heavily advised by Saturn. And you set it into motion before Mars turned retrograde. Now's not a good time to start new things. If you haven't got a new thing that you have started, then plan, strategize. You can move forward once you have your plan and your strategy. Now, you're going to hear a lot more of this sort of stuff from me. I want to give a very quick plug to the Astrology Hub and the course that they are running with famed astrologer Rick Levine. That starts next Sunday, 4th of October. I will be doing that course as well. So you know how I keep saying, no, I'm not an astrologer? Well, hopefully by the end of it, I'll be that one step closer to being one. I mean, okay, it's still going to take me a decade to get there, but I get to study under Rick Levine. How cool is that? And so can you. So if you go over to the Astrology Hub website, astrologyhub.org, just Google Astrology Hub, and then whatever that web address is /foundation, and you will find that course. It works out $200 and odd with tax, really odd, like $4.50 or something, $4.88 I think I paid. So yeah, if you're into all this stuff, and hey, you've listened to me drone on for what, 17 minutes now, I better get on with the reading in a moment. But you've listened to me waffle on for all of that. So come and join. It should be fun. Now, there's also a link down below for my Facebook page for this channel. I'd be remiss if I didn't give that a plug. There is an inbox on that Facebook page. So if you want to contact me for a personal reading, feel free. That's one of the ways to do it. You can DM me on Twitter as well. I have a Linktree link down there for all the different social media bits and bats. And I have the time now October is, yes, I've no idea what month it is. I mean, as Rick Levine said, we are on the 175th of March. But October, I have a lot more free time. I hope to be generating a lot more videos for you. And I've just seen my video go really weird there. So I think I will stop talking now and bring up the cards. Cheers. And well done, Sagittarius Sun, if you made it through my entire introduction, and welcome after the timestamp, Sagittarius Rising and Sagittarius Moon. Now for Sagittarius Rising specifically, but this may be relevant for other Sagittarius placements, this full moon is in the 5th house. Now this is the house of fun, romance, and where you create things that you are proud of. Now it's also a full moon in here makes you want to be creative, want to have fun. So there's quite a chance that you may be putting work on a bit of a back burner, because it's about time for you to express that creative side, although it can be difficult to find the time, but you need to make the time for that creative side, otherwise you know you won't be feeling as complete as you would like to be. Now there's going out and enjoying yourself is important, and literally concentrate on that fun, but be careful with it. There's a line I have to read out of this. This is from darkpixieastrology.com, which is an ace little reference site. You're more enthusiastic, passionate and spontaneous, so watch what you do carefully if you don't want to go overboard. Sometimes it's okay to wake up with a stranger in your bed, but it's almost never okay to wake up with a goat. Work may be on the back burner, so don't commit yourself to any big projects. Now, I mean, what a great phrase. It can be okay to wake up with a stranger in your bed, but it's hardly ever okay to wake up with a goat. So Sagittarius, this top row represents the archons, represents them pretending to be the gods, doing what they can to keep us in fear and misery and negative emotions, and basically away from our divine purpose and our divine understanding and our divine calling. This bottom row represents the gods themselves, trying to lift you up, trying to bring you up to their level. And we've got a real interesting interplay here, since we have Zeus and Hera from the same deck opposing one another. And as you know, they had a firm, solid relationship on Hera's side. But Zeus could play away a little, and would mean that Hera gets jealous and a little bit vengeful. But one thing that modern retellings of Hera's story don't tend to focus on is, if you look at the, what was it, New Adventures of Hercules, or what, the Kevin Sorbo thing, they don't focus on her loyalty. She stood by Zeus through thick and thin. She was the archetypal politician's wife. Yeah, she had her own agendas going on, but she backed her husband up whenever he needed it and tried to keep him in line whenever he needed it. So there was that loyalty. But here, this is an archonic influence. So it's almost like there's some call to action, and Scorpio had a similar call to action, Thor again. There is some call to action that is spelt out to you that this is the right thing for you to do. This sets the scales right. Everything is good and fine with it. This way you will create healing. But I fear that there is something either being kept from you, or that you are keeping something from someone that really alters this situation. And now what these cards are telling me is grab the bull by the horns, whatever that may mean. Because this top row, going ahead with what you are told is your duty and taking action to make things stay in balance, that's supposed to be a healing thing, and possibly even putting you into a position where you're needing to keep secrets, basically for an easier time. Nix with respite here. Opposing Nix, we have Scylla or Scylla with drama. And Scylla was an absolute and utter drama queen. And there's a hint here that that's what you should do. In maybe a more measured way than Scylla did in the myths and legends, because we start with Zeus with leadership. So whatever this calls to action is, the first thing for you to do is, let me think about it. Let me think how we are going to solve this. And I feel like from here, we have someone going, yeah, well, you can see what you need to do to solve it. You need to do this, 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 and this. And why aren't you getting on with it already? There's a better way, because we have double Zeus here. I didn't even notice that. We have Zeus with leadership and Zeus with divine expansion. So that is implying to me that you don't just need to deal with the one situation that's being brought to your attention. You need to look at a bigger picture and see what is the most healing for everybody within this bigger picture. All the time while trying to have some fun here, remember, because you're expressing your creative side. But there's Maui with discovery. He was ingenious. What was interesting that when I read up about him, when I got this deck, he invented a fishing hook that ended up uprooting islands, and that's how Hawaii was formed. So there is certainly a space for you to use your creativity, but it's not one that will be immediately obvious. It's one where you just have to take one step back to look at a bigger picture, because healing is on the menu here. We have Kuan Yin, compassion. Now, excuse me 1 second. Let me just pause. I believe that's a parcel. So not just one parcel, lots of parcels. And then I sat down and then I started waffling away, carrying on with the reading, not realised that I hadn't pressed resumed, I pressed stop. So you'll notice tarot cards now on the reading. So we was talking about, as because I've had to replay to see where I got up to, I was talking about the healing aspect. We was talking about finding, stepping back from this, when this call to action occurs, step back and try and look at the bigger picture, to look at the more healing aspect to the most people involved, because it's almost like there is a call to up the level of justice that's applied to the situation. But again, it's that knee-jerk reaction that's coming from a place of conflict, and I don't think engaging in the conflict is actually going to happen. You want to step back from the conflict and say, right, where is there a solution? And this is where you get to be creative. Now, I can't remember if this was in the first bit or when I was just waffling, but Maui was an inventor. He created a fishhook that uprooted islands and accidentally created Hawaii by doing that. But this Two of Swords here with the first use is telling me that balance needs to be sought. We've got Melahel with healing capacity. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself. And Manakel with knowledge of good and evil here. Now the Melahel and the Kuan Yin all imply working towards that creative intent, to that healing intent, using your creative powers to find that solution. And this is something where Scylla is, her drama queen nature is advising you to stand up and really take the bull by the horns and go, everybody, I have a proposed solution. Now, this solution seems to be an older one. You see, Scylla here is clarified by the Hierophant, something traditional. And that follows straight after Pluton. Now, Pluton was a wealthy ancient Greek. Again, forgive me if I'm repeating myself, because I can't remember what I've said and what I haven't. But he was here representing underworld because, well, he's dead. But also the riches of the underworld, because it's got all of history in it and all of history's lessons in it. So there is something hidden, maybe one aspect of your personality that you've not recently shown. Could be something where I feel like you're saying, well, we used to do it this way and I've got my own little twist on it. I can set the plan to work forward, which is the most compassionate ending to everybody. Do not be drawn into a situation where you are being asked to keep a secret. If it's a secret that's already there, you know, not a new secret, then it may be time to reveal it. Or there's that aspect of time to bring out something that hasn't necessarily been deliberately secret, just hasn't had a chance to reach the light of day recently. But the fact that everyone needs a rest is recognised. Yeah, that's fine. But don't do the quick knee-jerk reaction, the conflict-based reaction, because it doesn't solve the problem. And what one person's interpretation of justice may be in this situation, this is somebody possibly around you, isn't actually justice, because, and this probably sounds awful, depending what ears are listening to it, but stuff justice. Justice is irrelevant. Healing is what is important here. Which, with me having that impulse, makes me think that somebody's done something not out of a point of malice or out of a point of pain, out of a point of evil, but from a point of pain, from a point of woundedness. And yeah, they need to be taught that they shouldn't do that, but you can teach them that by showing them a path to healing somehow. This has got quite deep and quite political, this one. I will say that whatever you adopt as a strategy here will probably take time. It will be slow going. And that's why you need to stand back and take the time to allow, one, more information to come to you, and two, to allow yourself that space for the greater perspective, for considering more things, and that kicking in of the creative processes. But acting from a point of compassion for all parties will actually assist you here. So I think to a great extent I may well be repeating myself now. I certainly feel like I have done, but then again I've already talked through the second half of this already and realised the camera was off. Yeah, it's going to be a good day. Yeah, good luck with this, Sagittarius, because the crazy thing in all of this is that although it won't appear like fun to start off with, it will be fun, as in it really gets your creative juices going. It gets you to be in a leadership role, but also you only need to do that drama queen bit of everybody look at me, I've got a plan at the start. And then once you set that ball rolling, other people are able to pick that ball up and run with it. So you've shown them how. And I think there is an element of, obviously Zeus was Sky Father, the king of the, the king of the gods when he was in power. So you may need to keep an eye on it, but it's a compassionate eye. Okay, so I hope the video hasn't been too mangled by the interruption in the middle and the stupidity of me turning the camera off. because this feels a lot more disjointed to me than the first time I talked through all of it. But your monthlies will be out in the first few days of October. Obviously, this is the day before the new moon. Tomorrow's the 1st. They're not going to be out by the 1st. But we'll see you then. And Sagittarius, Sun, go and watch your moon and rising now. Cheers.